Welcome to the Attention Deficit Disorder Expert Podcast Series by Attitude Magazine.
Hi, everyone. My name is Annie Rogers, and on behalf of the Attitude team, I'm so pleased to welcome you to today's ADHD Experts presentation titled A Woman's Guide to Preventing ADHD Burnout. Leading today's presentation is Kate Moryoussef. Kate is a UK-based well-being and lifestyle coach for ADHD women, host of the ADHD Women's Well-Being podcast, and mom to 4 kids. By using EFT tapping, she enables her clients to recognize what's been holding them back and guides them to trust their inner connection and wisdom. Kate works online with many ADHD and non-ADHD clients around the world. And you can learn more about her at www.adhdwomenswellbeing.co.uk. If you are juggling busy work and family schedules and you feel like you can't keep up, you are in the right place. As a woman with ADHD, you've probably experienced burnout at some point in your life to some degree. Balancing career ambitions and societal commitments with a neurological condition is a challenge that isn't met with enough validation or support. It's easy to tip the scale without strategies that are designed for you. In today's webinar, we'll talk about the phenomenon of burnout and how to step into prevention mode with an ADHD brain. We'd like to begin today's webinar by asking a few poll questions to our live audience. First, on a scale of 1 to 10, how burned out do you feel right now? And what ADHD symptoms or traits do you think contribute the most to your feelings of burnout? Please select your answers, and you can always comment in the text box under the video player to tell us more. For answers to common webinar questions about slides, transcripts, and certificates of attendance, just click on the FAQ tab of your webinar screen. If you're listening in replay or podcast mode, visit attitudemag.com and search for podcast 483 to access the webinar resources. You can also click on the episode description wherever you stream your podcasts. If you support the work we're doing here at Attitude to strengthen the ADHD community, we encourage you to visit attitudemag.com/subscribe and sign up for Attitude Magazine. Right now, we're offering a 2-for-1 gift offer so you can get Attitude for yourself and for someone you love who could benefit from greater ADHD understanding. Just click the magazine tab on your screen to learn more. And finally, the sponsor of today's webinar is Inflow. Inflow is the #1 app to help you manage your ADHD. Developed by leading clinicians, Inflow is a science-based self-help program based on the principles of cognitive behavioral therapy. Join Inflow today to better understand and manage your ADHD. You can click the link on your screen to learn more. Attitude thanks our sponsors for supporting our webinars. Sponsorship has no influence on speaker selection or webinar content. Okay, without any further ado, I'm so pleased to welcome Kate Moryoussef. Kate, thank you so much for joining us today and leading this very timely discussion.
Yeah, thank you. It is indeed timely. So thank you, Attitude, for having me. What a privilege to be here. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm going to go with this because I think ADHD burnout in women is incredibly common and prevalent, something that I have experienced for many, many years and still battle with to this day. So yeah, I think it's a really important conversation to be having. So, I will just give a quick introduction. I'm a mum of 4. I live in the UK. I'm an ADHD wellbeing and lifestyle coach. I'm also an EFT practitioner. I'm the host of the ADHD Women's Wellbeing podcast. And I see burnout the whole time in my community, in my practice, in my life. And it is really, really important to have these conversations so we can understand and we can validate and we can be more aware and hopefully make small changes to our daily life to hopefully bring big changes moving forwards. So to begin with, what officially is burnout? So I've included this description by the World Health Organization. It's a bit prescriptive, but you get the gist of it. When we say, according to Mental Health UK, burnout is a state of physical and emotional exhaustion. It can occur when you experience long-term stress in your job or when you've worked in a physically or emotionally draining role for a long time. Now, what is not mentioned here is that if we are battling with an undiagnosed neurological condition like ADHD, that has a huge mental toll on our health, our well-being, and can sap us of energy. And so we may be living in a stressful, environment. We may be stressed at work, but when we have the exacerbation of ADHD and diagnosed ADHD, very often it can really be incredibly draining and depleting. And so, common signs of ADHD of burnout. This is, again, I'm just going to say some things that I've seen, personally, but in my practice as well. And I know it shows up differently for lots of people. But essentially, it's feeling physically and mentally exhausted or drained a lot of the time, feeling helpless, feeling trapped, defeated, feeling quite detached and alone, feeling like you want to sort of isolate yourself. You notice that you're having more of a negative outlook in life. You just notice that you're just a bit more cynical, and there's just sort of an undertone of sort of heaviness and negativity. There's a lot of self-doubt there. You're not trusting yourself. Lots of overworking, overcompensating, which is also combined with procrastinating, taking longer to get things done, and just kind of feeling like you're going round in circles and never quite getting there. And this feeling of overwhelm, where you're just exhausted and overwhelmed and not quite sure where to begin, and feeling depleted and drained at the same time. And I know that a lot of neurotypical people can feel burnt out, but I do believe, and we've seen the statistics, that ADHD, burnout is a lot more prevalent along the neurodivergent community. And it can make us feel chronically stressed all the time. So we just feel this underlying anxiousness, stress, this is sort of adrenaline. We feel sort of this cortisol running through our body, and we're just not quite sure why it's there. We may look like we've got it together, but internally there's so much going on, and we're so used to masking that we just hide it. And there's a statistic that says around 54% of people with ADHD have experienced burnout at some point in their lives. I actually think it's higher, but that's what was said in the research. I do see burnout feeling almost like a normality, that we're just used to this kind of feeling of just being on the edge, of just feeling like we're going to just kind of collapse at any time. And actually, somebody said to me today that she feels like she's just had functional burnout, sort of similar to functional depression, for most of her life, that it's just been such a normality to her that she doesn't know what it's like to live without it. Which can lead to sort of long-term health problems, mental health problems. And when we've been living for so long, many of us have been living for so long undiagnosed, and we're only just understanding our brains now, it can feel this exhaustion, it can feel stressful, and it feels like we're just rowing upstream. We've got a backpack on our back, and we're trying to do things differently. Combine that with just life in general, that's exhausting. Parenting, caring, working, doing all the things alongside something else that's holding us back can really lead to burnout. So this is actually a quote from Attitude, and I pulled this up because I found it, it really kind of explained it really nicely, that people who have ADHD burn more cognitive energy to get through the activities of their lives. So by the end of the day, or even the morning, you are running on empty. By engaging in task switching, you are spending more of your limited energy than you can afford. So I feel like so many of us can probably relate to this, that we may have been on our phones, we may have been doing emails while trying to sort our kids out, while trying to do something else. And our brain wants to be kept busy, and we're looking for things to keep ourselves interested in, the dopamine. but we're also task switching, and we're doing all the different jobs, especially with the societal expectations of women, that, come lunchtime, we feel like we've done, hours worth of activities and work, and we can just get to that point where we're already exhausted and we've not got through even half the day. And if this is happening every single day, that is leading to some form of sort of chronic inflammation in our body, which is going to lead to us feeling really poorly and unwell. So many of you are here now. You may or may not have had an official diagnosis, but if you are here, there's probably a great understanding that there's been ADHD there your whole life. And we're now able to understand how this neurological condition has impacted us. And we're able to look back retrospectively and see all the different ways it's impacted our brain, our bodies, our nervous systems. And I do believe that our nervous system is highly integral to understanding burnout and understanding how our nervous system plays a role in when we are just constantly in this sort of fight or flight mode, sympathetic mode. And I'm going to try and help you move the dial a little bit more from being in that sympathetic hyper-arousal mode of just doing, and not being able to allow yourself or give yourself permission to rest or to settle or to pause or to breathe or to have a break. So I think we have a lot of challenges, and with women, especially because of all the expectations and all the things that we're still doing as women that society is still putting on us. And, the times are moving, but actually sometimes they're really not. And it feels like women, I'm 43, nearly 44, that we're into this sort of sandwich generation. It's this lost generation of women who have been told to have careers, do it all, have children, be caring, do all the things, make sure your house is tidy, all these different things, all these sort of she messages that I think that Sarah Sultan talks about. And actually, all of this is just layering upon layering of just pressure that eventually does lead to these burnout cycles. So the P's that I sort of identified is we're either parenting neurodivergent children while also, battling our own mental health, understanding our ADHD, understanding how that impacts us. But there's a very high chance that we're probably still caring for slightly older parents, but parents maybe who haven't had diagnoses, parents who you may now see, very similar traits that you see in yourself in them. Maybe there's been dysfunction, there's been chaos, there's been trauma in your childhood, and that's still playing out in some way. And I believe that we're this generation where we're trying to break cycles because we've got more awareness. We're able to understand what's going on. And who knows what's going to happen in 10 years where we're going to have even more understanding, even more awareness. But we are now able to look back and maybe see the cycles and the generations of where so much unraveling has happened, where we've had to maybe pick at the pieces, where there's been childhood trauma. And then we're also trying to help our own children as well. So there's a lot there. And that in itself is just to kind of just give yourself some compassion. There's a lot of pressure. We put pressure on ourselves. There's a huge amount of inner expectations to do more. I should be doing more. I should be doing better. Things should be tidier. Things should be easier. And there's this constant conversation in our heads that we should be doing more. And we find it really hard to give ourselves this permission to rest. And many of my clients are just crying out for this permission. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to say no. It's okay to take things off our schedule. And this, leads into the perfectionism that many of us align to, that we really do resonate with, that things have been so tricky, not understanding our brains, that our go-to has been perfectionism, pushing, striving, and really kind of creating a persona that feels like we are, doing the best that we can, even though it's at the expense of our health, maybe our mental health or physical health. Our processing, which sometimes for us, I know for myself that I find it harder to process information, instructions. I have to do things slower. I have to do things over and over again to really get that information in, or for for things to land. And so if we have maybe slower processing, that means that we've got to do things more. We've got to do things, we've got to work harder than neurotypicals. And when we are all time poor and we're all, racing against this kind of clock of, what we're told that we've got to be, constantly on the go. It's really hard. It's really hard to keep up. We procrastinate. There's very much part of our personality. If you've got ADHD, there's an element of procrastinating, not in all ways, but there may be parts of things that we don't enjoy doing, things that we find more challenging, where we do put off. But the problem is it's always there in the back of our mind. So even though we're procrastinating, it's still there. We're still thinking about it, and it's still nudging us and telling us that we need to go back to it, and you've not done it, and you're going to be late. And this inner critic is very difficult. And that goes with the people pleasing and the paralysis and all these different things that I'm trying to sort of explain, that it's a validation that this is all going on behind the mask, behind what people can see, behind what we have kind of portrayed to the outside world of that everything's okay. We very much enjoy working with purpose. And when we're not purposeful in our life, it can really put a huge amount of pressure on us. We're seeking, we're looking. If our job doesn't feel purposeful, maybe we're looking outside of our career, or we're wanting to change our career to be more purposeful. And that constant sort of looking and seeking and trying and I speak to a lot of people who have doing lots of different careers because that purpose is so strong. We've got planning, the executive functioning, the struggle that it takes for us to do things that maybe a neurotypical person might, do in a few minutes. For us, we have to break it down. We have to look at it. We have to understand it. Basic things like shopping or tidying or sorting or writing a presentation for us can take longer. And this is all about prioritizing priorities, that all of this is just another it's just another thing that we shoulder, another thing that's sort of silent, that lies there underneath the surface, but so many of us can relate to. We're looking for our potential. We want to fulfill our potential. And that in itself is this sort of big thinking. And how much effort does that take to be there constantly thinking, should I be doing more? Am I fulfilling myself? Am I reaching my potential? And in a way, that's fantastic because it drives us. But in a way, it's a huge energy depleter because we're not focusing on where we are right now. We're, in the future, we're pushing, we're thinking about ourselves in 5 years, in a year's time. And we're not where we are right now. We're not being present. I don't think I put that down, but that should be down there. And with phones, we really struggle with, and I'll go on to that. But yeah, phone addiction, scrolling, social media, anything like that, saps our energy hugely. So I'm not going to list all of these here, but if you are going to download the slides, you're going to be able to see that there's all of these traits, all these symptoms, or however you want to look at it, that we can see in ourselves that can contribute to this cauldron of burnout, all these different things that maybe you may relate to or some you may not relate to. But I'm just going to say things like, we are overachievers. Very often, a lot of people come to me and they are workaholics. They are wanting to overachieve. But they suffer with things like imposter syndrome. So they're constantly trying to override that. They've got very negative voice, this self-criticism, but we lack in self-trust and we're constantly doubting ourselves. Now, doubt, imposter syndrome, overthinking, ruminating, worrying, all of these things, that is depleting our mental energy. So when we get to the end of the day, we just feel like we have nothing left to give. And if that's every single day, that's going to bear a huge weight on us. Hypersensitivity, social anxiety, rejection sensitivity. I want you to understand that when we can pinpoint all of this and then combine it with things like, the very difficult sides where we are seeking dopamine fixes, we're actively seeking dopamine. And then we are going through, a spiral of shame and guilt and blame. And that in itself, if we have addictive tendencies and we know we shouldn't be doing them, but it's our way of either self-soothing or it's our way of, seeking that dopamine. It's our way of calming and regulating our brain, but it's also very detrimental as well to our health. We are highly sensitive. We're empaths. Our energy levels are fluctuating, our mood regulation, and we're combating things like dysfunctional family dynamics. We're combating that with relationships, with looking after our children, with potentially chronic pain, autoimmune conditions, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, thyroid issues. These are all things, gut issues. I hear a lot that it all has an impact. Everything feeds into each other. I know that I'll talk about it soon, but we really do. The ADHD brain impacts our physical health as well. And you can see I've carried on here. I could have carried on. I could have kept, putting things here to show you how impactful all these different areas of our ADHD can contribute to burnout, even if you don't work, even if you are, you don't have children or you're not looking after parents. Just having ADHD, just living with this neurological disorder or difference can contribute to burnout. So I don't want you to think that if you're not juggling kids or a career or busy family life or anything like that, just living with ADHD, potentially undiagnosed, is a massive energy drainer and a huge impact on our health. A huge part of this is the hypervigilance. Something that I talk about a lot is being constantly on edge or waiting for something to happen, or our nervous system never feeling settled, like we've missed something or should be doing something or we've forgotten something. All of this we live with. Our nervous system is so finely tuned to be in this sympathetic state that we don't know life without adrenaline and cortisol, racing through our veins. So right now, I just want to validate you. I don't want you to think that I'm just going to come here and tell you all these things that I'm just going to leave you. But right now I'm validating you, and for you to be able to recognize no wonder you feel burnt out, because this for me was a pivotal changing point. This awareness, this understanding was my wake up. It was my okay, it's not your fault. You're not doing things wrong. You're overcompensating to have fit into a world or an environment that doesn't feel right to us, that feels very draining and difficult, that we have, are being overly stimulated, or things that other people find just really easy to deal with and we don't. And we're then shamed or embarrassed for feeling like this. It is not, it's not our fault. And I just want you to know that when we've lived undiagnosed until adulthood and thinking we're always wrong or we're broken or lazy or stupid, it sucks our energy dry and leaves us really, really depleted of self-confidence, self-esteem, energy. But when we can make that moment, we can make that choice to start thinking and doing things differently, it feels much more empowering. So I just want you to know that if you need to hear this today, it's not your fault, you're not broken, and it's okay to be you, because I'm sure that with all the things that I've listed, it comes in incredibly handy, so many ways of those things. You're being an empath, being sensitive, being highly attuned to our environment. It can be incredibly helpful, but when we don't know what's going on, it can feel really debilitating. So burnout signs can be shown, come in all different ways. And I just want you to know that there's no sort of formula to it. You may resonate with one thing or may not, with another thing. But what I will say is that our body is always speaking to us, and we have to recognize our very busy brain, our very, very busy chatter in our brain can override lots of things going in our body. And we need to start being able to tune back into our body and start listening and being present with our signs and our symptoms and giving it a bit of space to tell us what it is that we need. So we must see what our body, the pains, the aches, the inflammation, the health problems, all of that. We need to see this as a gift, because this is now our compass, and it's up to us whether we want to be guided, because we've been given the signs. We've been given I guess these warning signs as a way for us to navigate our way out of this. So many of us can, have all these different warning signs, but, few are ongoing illnesses. You may get chronic pain in your shoulders, back, your neck. I know I get it in my shoulders, my neck instantly. I can feel it. Jaw clenching. I know that's very common for a lot of us, is to have very tight jaw and feel a lot of pain, and, teeth, I've forgotten the word, but you know what I mean. Palpitations. It can just feel like we're constantly on the edge of a panic attack. Migraines, I hear about a lot. I hear about just chronic exhaustion, not being able to get out of bed, not being able to do anything, feeling ashamed that all we want to do is stay in bed. And it's this sort of dorsal vagal state where it just feels like we have nothing left to give and we just want to just curl up and hide. Insomnia, maybe you have been okay with sleep, but you may notice that that insomnia is kicking in. You're not able to feel settled. There's anxiety. You may notice depressive moments. You may notice that depression's creeping in. It may be that you've managed to manage your depression, or you feel that you've managed to sort of just stay on the edge of it, but it feels much more all-consuming. There's feelings of wanting to run away and feeling helpless and having big breakdowns, feeling so out of control with your emotions. And you're wanting to sort of pull away. You want to disconnect and just feel incredibly listless. And these are all signs that this is not a good place to be. This is not where you want to be, and that burnout is there. And we can get there before this happens. Where there are preventative ways, and this is what we're going to be talking about. And it is very common. And I saw this article in The Guardian here in the UK, and it was written a couple of years ago. And the reason I put this here is because the title is "The Lost Girls, Chaotic and Curious Women with ADHD All Have Missed Red Flags That Haunt Us." And the author says that after multiple burnouts in her early 30s, she finally knew why life sometimes felt harder for her. And it made such perfect sense of why did no one notice? She'd been to the GP, she'd been to doctors. And I would say that my biggest passion would be to help educate healthcare professionals, so that when women come in and they explain and tell people that they have these symptoms and these cycles of them, that we are not being passed off, that it's not just, here, take some anxiety meds, that they can start understanding and noticing neurodivergent burnout signs and traits, and they can start being able to diagnose or send people on that pathway so they can understand themselves better. And it's really powerful that if women you're going to your doctors and it's been continual and there's a pattern to it, there's cycles, that we have to advocate for ourselves and say things like, there's potential that I may be ADHD, that there may be autism, that this burnout is highly connected to neurodivergence. And we have to advocate for ourselves, because there's a lot of healthcare professionals that don't connect those dots. And I'm not blaming anyone. It's just that, the information's trickling out slowly. The reason why so many of us with ADHD, women, we go through these burnouts is because we have hormonal cycles. And this impacts, us and these intense fluctuations. We've got families, many of us are parents, and we're kind of keeping up with these societal roles. We're empaths, we're feeling, we're open channels to people who want our help, and we want to help and we want to fix and we want to do all the things. But it can be really difficult because we also have all these wants and needs for ourselves. We're ambitious, we've got dreams, we've got expectations, we're high in energy, but then also very easily depleted. It's lots of contradictions. And as ADHD women, I feel that we live with a lot of polarity. And I think that can be really difficult, that one day we feel hugely energized and we want to take over the world and we're ambitious and we want to start a new business and we have all these ideas to do hobbies and all of that. And then literally the next day, something can happen that derails us and we just want to stay in bed and we don't have anything else to give. So it's just a recognition that being a woman with ADHD right now is really hard. You know, we're people pleasers. We want to help and we want to serve, but we also find it really hard to ask for help. We find it difficult, maybe with our executive functioning, to delegate. We know we need help, but we're not quite sure how and where. You know, I know that for sure. Sometimes I really struggle to know how to ask for help because unless it's sort of written down in a list, I just know I'm overwhelmed and I'm exhausted and I'm tired. But actually, what is going to be that thing that helps me? Sometimes I struggle. The overwhelm is just too much. And so maybe we just need someone to help us break it down and just say, well, you know, what's the biggest part? What's the biggest challenge right now? Where are you not trusting yourself? Where do you feel, you know, is it work? Is it family life? Is it the cooking? Is it the housekeeping? Where is it that it's tipping you over the edge? And sometimes we just need a little bit of help, probably from a neurotypical person. We feel like we're always rushing and we have very little time to do things and we're constantly chasing our tail. And I think I'm not going to go into all of this here, but you will recognize some of these, that we have a lot of old stories and beliefs that stem from being undiagnosed. And this historical conditioning of feeling out of place and believing that we're doing something wrong or we are flawed and we're overcompensating. And we have also these she messages that I mentioned, this resentment of how are we expected to do so much? How are we expected to still be at the helm of the house and still be in charge of all my kids' birthday presents and teachers, and especially at this time of year with Christmas. And I just know with, you know, my kids, they keep reminding me and I keep forgetting that we've got Secret Santas and school presents and Christmas jumper day and all these different things that I'm forgetting, and I'm dropping all the balls because it lands mostly on us. And things are changing. I'm noticing that there is parenting is becoming a little bit more equal, but I would say still we're nowhere near that yet. So we are exhausted, we're resentful, we're tired, we are dealing with a lot of internal stuff, but externally not a lot is changing either. And we sometimes just need some space. We need some headspace. We need time to process. And very often we're not getting that. And if we are getting it, we're not getting enough of it. So this is why so many of us are feeling burnt out right now. So I've talked about the ADHD inner pressure. There's a lot of self-criticism. We feel maybe at the end of the day that our to-do list, we've not even got there. We've not got there yet. This to-do list, this never-ending to-do list, that we should be doing more, we should be achieving more. And that is really exhausting. And right now, we're here to break some cycles. We're here to recognize that we can't continue to live like this. We can't continue to shame and blame and put this guilt on ourselves that no matter how busy we've been that day and how much we've done and achieved and done for others and hopefully had some time for ourselves as well, that we're still nowhere near the end of that to-do list. And maybe we'll never get to the end of that to-do list. And maybe we just need to accept that and be okay with that. So if anyone that's switch off, that it feels really difficult to think I need to send one more email, or I've not done that thing, or I've forgotten to do something. We have to start noticing what these triggers are and start noticing where these old beliefs and stories, what are they telling you? Why do we put so much of our worth in our work alter ego? And where's that coming from that we're ready to let go of? What are we ready to release now that we have more awareness about how our ADHD showed up as a child in school, in academia, in maybe college, or, in our jobs, in our careers. And now we have that understanding of how difficult it was for us. Where can we start thinking, right, how do I want my life now moving forwards? Getting curious about our life values and thinking, do I want to carry on like this? Does this, we hear this a lot. It's like, do we want this on our gravestone, that she worked till 9 p.m. every single night? Or do we want something like, she was an amazing mum, she was an amazing friend, she was an amazing sister, daughter, whatever that is. She volunteered, she helped, she was an amazing inspiration to other people. But that's really hard to do if we are putting so much worth on just making sure that we aren't missing something at work. And I say this from a very personal perspective because I notice my overworking tendencies a lot. So Adam Grant, amazing organizational psychologist and author, he says your worth is not defined by what you achieve or acquire. It's a question of who you become and how you contribute to others. And self-esteem should come from character, not success or status. The highest accomplishment is to be a person of generosity, curiosity, and integrity. Now, if you struggle with remembering this, and that overachieving, that workaholic side of you likes to creep in, print something like this off, have it there as a reminder. It's really powerful when we really dig deep and go into those foundations of what we want our life to look like. When we really get deep and we think, am I going to be remembered for being the person that stays the latest in the office? Am I going to be the one? Do I want to be remembered for the one that works at the weekend and can't switch off and is constantly checking emails, and my kid wants me and I'm got my hand in my phone and I'm just going one more minute. I do it, but I have to remind myself that that is not how I want to be remembered. So we have to lean into these traits of ours, like the ADHD perfectionism, and start thinking, okay, how do I want to be? And perfectionism can be really deeply ingrained. It can be so deep-rooted that it's really hard to peel away those layers. But the key is the awareness. And when we notice, oh, okay, there's a perfectionist trait going there, can we remind ourselves, good enough? Good enough is normally brilliant for other people. And so can we really hone in and see whose perfectionism is this? Is this a parent? Is this coming from projecting from them? Did we notice that our parents were perfectionists? And did we learn, it was this learned behavior that doesn't suit me? And how can I move away from that now? What can I do to actively remind myself that is not the existence that I want for me? And what can I let go of? And can we gain perspective? This presentation today, I could have spent definitely more hours on it. I could have tweaked it and kept going. But I know that would have been at the detriment of being present with my kids, half an hour ago while I was in the kitchen with them, when they just come home from school. It's 6:30 p.m. tonight in the UK. They want me to talk to them. They want me to cook dinner. They want me to hear all about their day. And so I had to let go of, I'm hoping this presentation is going to be good enough for everybody, but it's not perfect, and I'm okay with that. So you need to start having a recognition of what your sweet spot is and learning what that feels like. This sort of neutrality in your body of, it's not incredible, it's not this huge dopamine rush, but it's also not this negative, awful voice in your head saying you're not good enough, you should have done more. It's just sort of a neutral voice that just feels okay. It just feels okay. And starting to see how we can fit that into our daily life. And when we can start tipping those scales, so it feels like we know we've got control over, what energizes us, what depletes us, who depletes us, what situations deplete us, and what situations bring our energy. They expand us, they fill us with joy and life. And how can we start making sure that we have, we're able to tip those scales in our favor now? We're feeling more empowered with the choices that we can make. And we're creating more awareness of how we can start making intentional choices and set where we're saying yes and where we don't want to be saying yes, and what are we not honoring. And with this, we need to pause. We need to take a breath. We need to notice. So when someone asks us to do something, instead of our default answer being, yes, sure, of course, can your default answer be, can you give me a day? I need to think about this. Or can I get back to you this afternoon? It's having different behavioral patterns. It's really leaning into new ways of behaving and changing our thoughts and changing the way we have done things without being intentional about it. And that comes with multitasking, which is just so part of our psyche that we don't even know that we're multitasking. But like what we said at the beginning with ADHD, this cognitive tax, this mental tax that we have with our cognitive output, it can really, really sap us, and it can lead us to our lowering our working memory. It can lead us to our executive functioning being compromised, and all of that leads to this mental burnout because we're trying, we're pushing, we're working harder. It's like consistently trying to make our phone work on 6% battery. It's constantly pushing. We would never expect that from our phone. So why are we expecting that from ourselves? That we're just pushing ourselves to operate on the very scraps of our energy. So there's ways to do this. We can really notice when we are multitasking. We can try really hard to stay in that moment. And when we feel pulled to task switch, can we pull ourselves back? Can we be aware? Getting rid of notifications, getting rid of an iWatch. I'm sorry, when your phone's constantly beeping, how can we be in the moment? How can we be present? Anything on your phone, your computer, any technology that you can remove that is sapping you from your cognitive energy and your executive functioning of being able to be where you are right now and have that moment, that focus. And even if it's for 10 minutes where you say, I'm just going to set a timer for 10 minutes where I can be in the flow without being constantly interrupted. I know this feels like a huge subject, ADHD and hormones, but what I want to say is, first of all, there's lots of resources on this on Attitude and also on my website, but I want you to know how intrinsically connected our hormones and our cycles are to feeling more burnt out at certain times of the month. So, for example, today I'm going to just go TMI. Today was my first day of my cycle, my first day of my period. In an ideal world, would I be presenting to thousands of people today? Probably not. Yes, I feel like there's some form of drain going on with my articulation or just being able to kind of be like mentally alert. But we have to override it in certain capacities. But if we have the capability of allowing ourselves the understanding of where our hormonal fluctuations are, of giving ourselves validation of how our hormones with our estrogen, how that impacts our dopamine. And so when we are having a cycle of where we have maybe 10 days, 2 weeks, maybe at max, where our estrogen levels are at optimum level and we are feeling good, we're feeling energized, we're feeling mentally alert, we're feeling able to take on the world. And very quickly, quite suddenly, sort of from ovulation, our estrogen levels are depleting. And that's when we notice our mood, our dopamine, we notice our sleep, we notice our clarity, our focus, our brain fog. Everything is just feeling harder, darker, heavier. Everything feels like a real slog. And very often we can't change our hormones. There's obviously tweaks that we can do. Perimenopause is very often a time where we feel like we're being sucked dry from our hormones. And HRT, hormone replacement, can help in some capacity. It really can. But the biggest thing that we can do here is have a recognition, understand how our hormones have impacted us, where we're going to be most sensitive in our cycle, and how we can preempt certain things and how we're going to feel at certain times, and have things in our diary where we have buffers. We say no to certain meetings. we know that the last 2 weeks, 10 days of our cycle are going to feel harder. So we say no to certain social arrangements. We nurture ourselves. Self-care is a much bigger part of our cycle, and we recognize what we need. We recognize how we need to look after ourselves in those 2 weeks. You know, as women, 2 weeks, that's 50% of our time. We are battling hormones, and especially with PMDD, which is a very severe form of, PMS. So many women struggle so much with that. You know, I've spoken to women who say that there's a couple of days a month where they do feel suicidal, that they feel so low. And that is a monthly cycle. That in itself, to be able to pick yourself up every single month, is exhausting. And so we have to start thinking about ourselves and prioritizing our rest, our self-care, our nurturing, our self-compassion, and also looking after ourselves from a lifestyle perspective, where we are taking these micro moments. We're taking micro moments where we don't have to wait for one vacation a year, where we tend to get sick and probably collapse, and it takes us a week to get into the vacation, where every single day we look at it and go, how can I give myself that micro moment to breathe, to have a walk, to get out in nature, to move our bodies, to be more mindful, where I have this time where I can create almost like a mini time that every single day I know I'm having sort of a self-care ritual. And that for me very much is diary management, being incredibly intentional with how I schedule my diary, how I get outside during the day, drinking, hydrating, making sure I'm eating healthy food, that I'm getting that fresh air, that I'm taking myself out of overstimulating environments. This is every single day. Now, it sounds exhausting to be this intentional, this alert, but actually we can get into this pattern, this routine of every day going, what am I doing today to look after myself? What am I doing every day to nurture and give myself that little bit of self-care, because it's incremental. This burnout prevention doesn't just happen, a 10-day holiday. We have to do this every single day. And every single day we need sleep. Every single day we need to recognize the impact sleep has on our body, our inflammation, how it impacts our immune system, our gut, our emotions, our hormones. Everything impacts our ADHD symptoms. And so going to bed is really hard. I struggle with this hugely. But I think about that future version of myself when I'm scrolling on the phone and I'm scrolling and I'm exhausted. And this is the only time I've had to decompress all evening. And I allow myself that time. I say, this is your decompression time. But at 10:30, you need to be in bed with your phone away. So I give myself that time. But anytime after 10:30, I know that the next day I'm going to pay for it. And what happens is with our sleep, it's accumulative. So we have to be intentional every night of, if I can get these hours sleep, that feels good to me, that's going to have an impact on my week, my month. That's going to really set me off. And it's new behavior patterns. It has to start small and slow. And even if you pull your bedtime, going to bed every single night by 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you go to bed 5 minutes earlier every single night, you can build up to this. So if you normally go to bed at midnight, for you to go to bed at 10:30 is really hard. So go to bed at 10 to 12, 20 to 12, all these little things you're just nudging. You're moving that dial. Okay, so I'm going to move forward a little bit quicker because we're sort of edging towards the time, but I've talked about asking for help and accepting help. It's okay to receive. We are worthy of help. We're worthy of receiving help and asking for help and seeking help. No one is expected to do this on their own. So if you're not getting help, where can you lean into more help? How can you communicate the accommodations you might need at work? How can you communicate that to a partner, to a friend? Where do you need that help? And how can you articulate that? And who can help you? But the biggest thing for me was receiving help. I felt so unworthy of receiving help that it felt uncomfortable. It felt really painful in my body. But then I recognized the impact of me receiving help it rippled out to everyone, my family, my partner, my kids, my work, life. I saw my friends. It was night and day. As you know, I'm an EFT practitioner, and I use EFT to help calm and regulate in the moment. Now, I have lots of videos on my website. This is a whole workshop in itself. But if you feel very dysregulated and you need calming down in that moment, I highly recommend looking into using EFT. And EFT is using pressure points around the face. It can either be done by tapping, or a very calming way is just holding and breathing. Each pressure point. And that one cycle of holding, breathing, not speaking, maybe 3 minutes, is an amazing way. Even just for me now, then I felt it. Even that 3 minutes, if you do that twice, 3 times a day, that is your way of reprogramming your system, calming things down, telling your nervous system it's safe to rest, it's safe. And all these affirmations here, I use that. You can use that when you're tapping, but you can also do it where you've got your hand on your heart, you're taking breaths, and you say to yourself, and it's going to feel really weird because your brain is not used to you hearing you saying these things. Your brain is used to you hearing you saying, I need to do more, I've not done enough, I need to push more, I need to just try harder, I need to do things differently. Can you feel that in your body? Or you say things like, I'm enough right now. I give myself permission to relax and recharge. Whatever I've done today is enough. I'm learning to release control and surrender more. I choose to accept that whatever I do is enough right now. And these affirmations, the more we say them, the more it will land in our body. And it's our body that needs to hear this, that we're safe. It's safe to receive help. It's safe to rest. It's safe to relax. And these are all ways that we can just tell our body and our nervous system that we are doing enough and it's safe for us and it's okay. We may not have heard that in our life. You know, we may have had a lot of conditioning telling us that we are, we're lazy. We need to be doing more. But actually, it's time to reprogram that conditioning. And now it's being more intentional. It's being more intentional with our energy and our time and seeing how you want to live. What are those values? What do you want to be modeling to your family, to your kids? If you've got daughters, how do you want to break those cycles? How are you able to show them and model them to them that it's okay to rest? It's okay to stop. That sitting on the couch and nourishing ourselves, watching Netflix and eating ice cream, you know, once in a while is really okay. And noticing these questions are really powerful. Where are we energized? Where can we lead more to that state of flow and move away from where we're feeling depleted? And how can we break these cycles? And we really need to also think about being more intentional about who we're with, what we're digesting, the social media, the news, the TV, all of the things that's coming in at us from all areas, and how we can start creating more of a nurturing space, this mental space, reducing the mental clutter and allowing ourselves more of a safe space that we've created, an energetic space that feels like we are not being pulled, we're not being sapped, we don't have all these energetic cords that people are sapping and taking away from us. And social media is a huge one. It's huge. And even if we just made a decision, just one thing from today, we made a decision to unfollow certain accounts or to use social media slightly less, or not check it as much, or give ourselves a window of opportunity just to check our social media, you will notice a massive difference in your mental energy, I think. And then we start leaning into this more authentic way of life. you'll notice this is all incremental, little tiny choices where we can offer ourselves more self-compassion. We can listen into our inner wisdom. We connect with more like-minded people. We lean into that tribe of people that are doing life, that we look at them and go, they're doing life in a way that we want, and start working, being around those people more and moving away from the people that maybe exacerbate your burnout cycles. And all of a sudden, you're going to be reshaping a way of your existence. You're living, you're working, leading to more self-acceptance. This is not a blueprint, but this is how we can move forwards and we can really kind of feel more at peace. So I want to be able to offer you this opportunity where we can start living a more personal and a more authentic way, and really lean into our truth and being okay with asking for what we want and giving ourselves permission to rest, permission for connection, permission for fulfillment and laughter and playfulness and joy and creativity and space and freedom. These are all expansive energies. This is how we fill our cup. This is how we move towards that light in our life that is expansive and gives us the energy, the good energy, and moving away, edge by edge, away from the things that deplete us. And we're going to have days and we're going to have weeks, we're going to have months that feel much harder. Right now, I know before the Christmas lead up, everyone is on this energy of we just have one more week to go. And I know what it's like. But if it's just one small choice, one incremental change, I promise you will start noticing these burnout cycles will become fewer, and there'll be less, and the space between them will grow. And then you'll start noticing, actually, that was 6 months ago when I last had that incident. And hopefully you'll be able to move forwards now with more self-awareness, self-empowerment, that you are able to make these small changes in your life. So thank you. Thank you for being here. I feel like I'm nearly overrun, but I feel like I'm done. I feel probably there was more to say, but maybe we can have some questions and I can cover some things that maybe I've missed.
Yes, Kate, thank you so much. Really wonderful presentation. Before we get to the poll results and the Q&A, I just want to quickly thank our sponsor, Inflow, one more time for making today's webinar possible. And then quickly, going back to the survey that we asked at the beginning here, I did a quick analysis, and on average, all of you out there listening, your burnout level right now is a 7 out of 10 on average. That's really high. And I hope that listening today made you feel less alone and helped you understand some of the reasons why you might be feeling more acutely stressed than some of the people around you. It is neurological and biological, and it is not your fault. If you walk away with one thing, I hope that's it. And we also asked about which ADHD traits you thought most contributed to your burnout. And yes, you could only choose one, but that helps us really see things rise to the top. And definitely neck and neck were procrastination and time management. So I did want to touch on, Kate, you mentioned the importance of your diary. If you have any tips for people, routine does not always come naturally to ADHD brains, but would you agree that it can be invaluable? And do you have any advice for people who want to carve out time for this kind of, I hate to use the word self-care, but reprioritization?
Yeah, it is. Listen, I know that there's a privilege involved here because many people work, 9 to 5, they're in offices, they maybe flexibility is very difficult. And for them to sort of go out and have a walk in nature or whatever is really, really hard. But what I would say is that if there's little ways that you can grab 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, build it up. If things like yoga or breath work or anything that fills you up, anything that can give you some space. And can you put that in your diary? Can you put it out and block it out that is your time? And I think that the more intentional and the more aware we are of what helps us, because one person may really find yoga very helpful, another person may not. They might prefer singing or Zumba, or it depends. Whatever is going to help you decompress and feel more regulated, that's the thing that you need to prioritize in your diary, and that's a non-negotiable. So if you know that one thing a week is really going to help you, I mean, for me, my non-negotiable is I have a walk every single day. That's just rain or shine. I know that I have to walk outside every day. Thankfully, I've got a dog. My dog walks me as opposed to me walking the dog. And that is I would say that's my number one burnout strategy, because if I don't have that, everything else crumbles. So I kind of build my whole day around when can I go for my walk, and then everything else fits around that. So it's really kind of being that scrupulous with what works, what helps you. Forget the person next to you, forget your sister, your brother, your friend. What helped you, and where can you make sure that's your non-negotiable that day or that week?
Great. So if you can walk away here with one thing, challenge yourself to carve out time in your schedule for that one thing that will help you, and see where that leads. I did want to mention one of our listeners today passed along a resource for others. You had mentioned the sort of insidious effect of technology and phones, and they passed along Technology Addicts Anonymous and Media Addicts Anonymous as really helpful resources for those with and without ADHD. So if you feel like that may be impacting your mental health and you're looking for some help with that, those are two places to go. And I also wanted to follow up. There were a lot of questions. And of course, this webinar was not specifically about hormones, but yes, we've done some work at Attitude, and we did a survey of about 4,600 women, and we discovered that ADHD symptoms, self-reported symptoms, are most elevated at the time of perimenopause and menopause. In addition, we have also learned from we did a recent survey of more than 7,000 adults that the average age of diagnosis for women is about 39. Yeah. So you're newly diagnosed when you are beginning to face the impact of menopause. So I just want to underscore that we are learning so much more about this today, and that the effects are real. And just because you haven't heard about them doesn't mean they don't exist. It means that the medical research is still catching up.
Yeah. I mean, I do a lot of work with hormones, and I've got a series on my website called the ADHD Women's Hormone Series. And I've interviewed around 12 or 13 different experts in all areas from, PMDD, pregnancy, post-pregnancy, perimenopause, and all the different ways it impacts, morning sickness, how our perimenopause symptoms show up with ADHD. And we're seeing so many different anecdotal commonality. And I think that's the thing. It's this, we need more evidence. We need more science, because the anecdotal evidence is there. And what we're hearing is that it tends to be that our perimenopause symptoms seem to come earlier. I think this is what I've been seeing for neurodivergent women. We're noticing that it's around sort of 39, 40, very typical, exactly what you said with your research, that our estrogen levels are dropping down and our ADHD symptoms are coming, to the forefront. And it feels very, very difficult for women. And that's when everything was we were managing. And then as our hormones deplete, our ADHD comes to the surface, and it's a really difficult time. But if anybody wants more information, there's lots of incredible experts that are really validating, and they're seeing lots of things in their practice as well. So yeah, it's a big topic, and it's something that I'm really passionate that even, from puberty, I think, if you've got a daughter who is, at that stage, they need to understand from a really young age that they're going to feel worse during their period, before their period. And it's okay, for them not to get worried, because, the amount of women that I've spoken to that have suffered with PMDD their whole lives and how debilitating it's been. And now they've been able to connect those dots with their ADHD as well. They've been able to get a huge amount of inner peace, but also practical help as well. So yeah, it's a big topic.
Big topic. Well, Kate, unfortunately, we are out of time, but thank you so much for your presentation today. A lot of people commenting that they felt seen and understood. And so thank you so much for your contribution to the Attitude community. And thank you also for everyone who joined us. And we hope you'll sign up at attitudemag.com/newsletters to just get alerts about all of our upcoming webinars and articles. So if you're listening in replay or podcast mode, visit attitudemag.com and search for podcast 483 to access the webinar resources. You can also click on the episode description wherever you stream your podcasts. If you support the work we're doing here at Attitude to strengthen the ADHD community, we encourage you to visit attitudemag.com/subscribe and sign up for Attitude Magazine. Right now, we're offering a 2-for-1 gift offer so you can get Attitude for yourself and for someone you love who could benefit from greater ADHD understanding. For now, Kate, thank you again, and good luck everyone getting through the rest of the holiday season.
Thank you.
For more Attitude podcasts and information on living well with attention deficit, visit attitudemag.com. That's ADDITUDEMAG.com.
Ever tried reading while jogging, cooking, or even juggling flaming torches? Yeah, it doesn't end well. But with audiobooks.com, you can conquer books without the circus act. Dive into over 450,000 titles, including more than 10,000 free ones. Get hooked on a bestseller, find your next obsession, or finally read that classic you've been avoiding since high school. And here's the inside scoop. Sign up today for a free 30-day trial and snag your first 3 audiobooks on the house. Sign up for your free trial at audiobooks.com/podcastfree today. That's audiobooks.com/podcastfree.